for reasons pertinent to the happiness of mankind, by request from the United States Philosophic Society, and the refusal of Dr. Henry Mudge, Ph.D., of Yarmouth University, the philosophic equation mentioned herein is presented as only equation C without further expansion. The great bookcases had gaps in their ranks, and the fallen members lay limp-leaved on the floor and table. The carpet was a snowdrift of wasted paper. The stuffed owl on the mantel was awry. The writing desk was heaped with tottering paper towers, and still Dr. Mudge worked on. The world could have exploded without in the least disturbing Yarmouth's philosophic professor. In his head whirled a maelstrom of philosophy, physics, and higher mathematics, and if examined from within, he would have seemed a very brave man. Examined from without, it was a different matter. Dr. Mudge's eyes were unusually bright. His hands gripped book and pen as every atom of his being was concentrated upon his work. Once he glanced up at the clock with a worried scowl. It was 6:30.
I have to be done in half an hour. That would give me just time enough to run down to the university and address the United States Philosophic Society.
He had not counted on this abrupt stab of mental lightning. He had thought to deliver a calm address on the subject, was Spinoza right in turning down the professorship of blah, blah, blah. But when he had begun to delve for a key to Spinoza, a truly wonderful idea had struck him. He did not even know that he was cramped from sitting so long in one place.
Henry? Henry Mudge, are you going to come in here and eat your dinner or not?
He did not come fully back to the world of beefsteak and mashed potatoes until Mrs. Doolin, his housekeeper, stood like a thundercloud in the study door.
Henry, what have you been doing? And look at you, a smudge on your nose and an ink spot on your robe.
Henry might fight the universe, but Mrs. Doolin was the boogeyman of Henry's life. 10 years before, she had descended upon him, and since that time...
Yes, Lizzie.
Aware for the first time of his stiffness, and suddenly very tired.
Are you coming to dinner, or aren't you? I called you a half hour ago, and the beefsteak will be ruined. And you must dress. What on earth's gotten into you, Henry Mudge?
Yes, Lizzie.
What have you done to this place?
Lizzie, I think I have it. I think I've got it.
What?
The equation. This is wonderful. This is marvelous, Lizzie. If I am right, there is a condition without dimension, a negative dimension. Lizzie, think of it. And all these years, they have been trying to find the fourth positive dimension, and now by working backwards...
Henry Mudge, what are you talking about?
The negative dimension, epistemology.
What?
The branch of philosophy that investigates the nature and limits of human knowledge. Look, think of it. You know what you can do with your mind. Mentally, you can think you are in Paris. Zip. Your mind has mentally taken you to Paris. You can imagine yourself swimming in a river, and zip, you're mentally swimming in a river. But the body stays where it is. And why, Lizzie? Why?
Henry Mudge!
But there is a negative dimension. I'm sure there is. I have almost formulated it, and if I can succeed...
Henry Mudge, your dinner is getting cold. Stop this nonsense right now.
But he had not heard her. Suddenly he gripped his pen and wrote. He was not even aware of any change in him, but half his brain began to stir like an uneasy beast, and on the sheet before him was equation C.
Henry Mudge, if you don't come in here and eat your dinner this very minute...
And half his brain recognized the danger in her. For years he had been in deadly terror of her.
I wish I was in Paris.
Cognac, monsieur.
He could not take it in. People were hurrying along the Rue de la Paix. going home as the hour was very late. Some of the cafes were already closed.
Cognac, vin blanc, monsieur?
Really, I don't drink. Is this Paris?
Oh, yes, certainly, monsieur. Perhaps one has already had a sip too much.
No, I don't drink.
The waiter began to count the saucers on the table.
And monsieur has done well for one who does not drink. 40 francs, monsieur.
Henry guiltily reached into his pocket, but his ink-stained robe was not his street coat. He had carpet slippers on his feet, and his searching hands told him that he possessed not a dime.
Please, I am out of funds. If you would let me pay...
So, then you will pay just the same. Gendarme! Gendarme!
Oh!
Henry imagined himself in the peaceful security of his study.
Why, where did you go? Oh, it must be my eyes. I know it must be my eyes. Those fainting spells did mean something then. Yes, I'm sure of it. Look, you haven't eaten dinner yet. You come right into the dining room this instant.
Henry tagged her into the dining room. She set a plate before him. The negative dimension had been there after all, and there was certainly no difficulty stepping into it and out of it. Mind was everything then, and body nothing. Or mind could control body.
Oh, it is very puzzling.
What are you dreaming about? Get upstairs and get dressed. It's 7 this very minute.
Henry plodded out into the hall and up the stairs. He got to his room and saw that all his things were laid out.
Oh, it's very puzzling.
He started to remove one carpet slipper and then scowled in deep thought at the floor. 20 minutes later, Lizzie knocked at his door.
Henry, you're late already.
I ought to be there this very minute.
It startled him to see them filing into the hall. Suddenly aware of his carpet slippers and ink-stained robe, the spot on his nose and his almost black hand, nervously he tried to edge back. The dean was there.
Why, Dr. Mudge? I didn't see you come in.
The dean looked him up and down and frowned.
I hardly think that your present attire...
Henry visualized the clothes laid out on his bed and started to cough an apology.
Here, Lizzie.
Why, you're not dressed. Henry Mudge, I don't know what is happening to your wits. You will keep everybody waiting at the university.
Oh!
My dear fellow... What happened to you? I was saying that I scarcely thought it proper.
Please,
But that was as far as Henry got.
I know it's my eyes.
stop. Don't say anything. Please, don't say anything. Please don't say anything.
Why, you're pale, Henry. Don't you feel well?
No, I mean, yes, I'm all right, but don't suggest anything.
But how could he state it? He was frightened half to death by the sudden possibilities which presented themselves to him. All he had to do was visualize anything, and that scene was the scene in which he found himself. All anybody had to do was suggest something, and zip, there he was.
You dress.
But he was afraid to start disrobing. What if he thought, no, he must learn to control this. Somehow he had missed something. If he could get the entire equation straight, and its solution, he would have the full answer. Henry quickly sat in his chair and gripped his pen with determination. There was equation C. Now, if he could solve the rest of it, he would be all right. He only had to substitute certain values.
Henry, I think you must be going crazy. Imagine keeping all those men waiting in the lecture hall.
It was to be our pleasure this evening that we hear from Dr. Mudge on the subject of this...
Oh, he's right beside you.
The dean looked, and there was Henry. Bathrobe, ink stains, carpet slippers and all. Beads of perspiration were standing out on Henry's bulging forehead.
Go right ahead. I do not approve of your attire, but it is too late now.
Henry stood up, choked with stage fright. He looked down across the amused sea of faces and cleared his throat. The hall quieted slowly.
Gentlemen, I have made a most alarming discovery. Forgive me for so appearing before you, but it could not be helped. Mankind has long expected the existence of a state of mind wherein it might be possible to follow thought. However, the arrival at actual transposition of person by thought alone was never attained because mankind has been searching forward instead of backward. That is, mankind has been looking for the existence of nothing in the fourth dimension instead of the existence, I mean to say the negative dimension is not the fourth dimension, but no dimension. The existence of nothing.
What it is that man babbling?
I mean that when a man imagines himself elsewhere, his mind seems to really be elsewhere for the moment. The yogi takes several means of accomplishing this, evidently long practiced in the negative dimension. Several great thinkers, such as Buddha, have been able to appear bodily at a distance when they weren't there, but elsewhere when they were there. The metaphysicist has attributed supernatural qualities to the phenomenon known as an appor, in which people and such appear in one room without going through a door when they were in the other room. If a man should wish to be in some other place, it is entirely possible for him to imagine himself in that place and diving back through the negative dimension to emerge out of it in that place with instantaneous rapidity. To imagine oneself...
Oh, an awful thought had hit him. How could a man exert enough willpower to keep from imagining himself in a position of imminent destruction? He knew instinctively that there was one place he could not imagine himself without dying instantly before he could recover and retreat. He did not know the name of that place in the instant, would not allow himself to think of it.
He ought to imagine himself on Mars.
Mudge didn't even hear the laugh which started to greet that sally. He examined the sandy wastes, which stretched limitlessly to all the clear horizons. Bewildered, he took a few steps, and the sand got into his carpet slippers. A cold wind cut through the thin bathrobe.
Oh dear, now I've done it.
Dr. Mudge felt very much alone. He had no faith in his mental behavior now. It might fail him. He might never get away. He might imagine himself in an emperor's palace. The diamond floor was hard on his eyes, and blazed lights were all around him. A golden throne reared before him, and on top of it sat a small man with a very large head, swathed in material which glowed all of itself. The emperor shouted and pointed a small wand. A man with a lethal-looking weapon braced his feet and leveled the muzzle at Mudge's chest. Mudge knew that he faced a death-dealing ray. Why, he was getting no more consideration than a mad ape, like the one in the Central Park Zoo. Weakly, Dr. Mudge leaned on the railing of the Central Park Zoo in New York. He took out his handkerchief and dabbed at his forehead. Dully he gazed up, knowing he would see an orangutan in the cage. It was late, and the beast slumbered in his covered hut. Mudge could only see a soft tuft of fur.
Thanks.
The night air was soothing. He was exhausted with all the cross currents which had battered his poor human mind. That and the thin air of Mars.
This can't keep up. I would no more than start to eat when something would yank me away. I'd starve. And sooner or later I'll think of a very dangerous place, and that will be the end of me. before I can escape. There's one place in particular. No!
The thought had not formed. One place he must never, never think about. Never. Mudge was a little pleased with himself just the same. See, back at the lecture...
I am sorry and very puzzled. Why Dr. Mudge should see fit to use a magician's tricks to appear in such strange attire and generally disport himself.
I can't help it!
The dean almost jumped out of his shoes. He was annoyed to be startled out of his dignity, and he scowled harshly at Mudge.
Doctor, I advise you strongly that such conduct will no longer be tolerated. If you are trying to prove anything by this, an explanation will be most welcome. The subject is philosophy and not Houdini's vanishing tricks.
Oh, don't say anything. Please, don't say anything more. Just keep quiet. I mean, don't say anything else. Please. I was just... No, I can't say where I was, or I'll go back, and I won't go back. This is very terrifying to me, gentlemen. There is one certain place I must not think about. The mind is an unruly thing. It seems to have no great love for the material body, as it willfully, so it seems, insists in this great emergency on playing me tricks.
Dr. Mudge, I know not what you mean by all this cheap pretension to impossibilities.
Ah, no, I am pretending nothing. If I could only stop this, I would be a very happy man. It is terribly hard on the nerves. Out of Spinoza, I wandered into force equations, and at 2 today, I caught a glimmer of truth in the fact that there was a negative dimension, a dimension which had no dimensions. I know for certain that mind is capable of anything.
It certainly is. Even chicanery.
No.
Begged Mudge, fishing unsuccessfully in his pockets.
In my notes.
He looked squarely at the dean.
Here, I have proof of where I have been, sir.
He stooped over, took off a carpet slipper. He turned it upside down on the lecture table, and a peculiar glowing sand streamed out.
This is Martian sand.
Bosh! Gentlemen, I wish you to excuse this display. Dr. Mudge has not been well, and his mind seems to be unbalanced. A few hours' rest?
I'll show you my notes. I'll show you the equation. I left them at home in my...
Poor little man. Doctor! What are you doing there? How did you get in the house? The doors are all locked and... Oh, it's my eyes! Doctor, you know very well that you should be at that lecture.
He barely had time to cram the papers in his pocket.
Such tricks are known... Oh, there you are. Doctor, I am getting very sick of this. We are too well versed in what can be done by trickery to be at all startled by this comings and goings of yours.
It's not a trick. Look, I have my notes.
And I suppose you have brought back some vacuum from the moon? This...
It was so cold that Mudge was instantly blue all over. He could feel himself starting to blow up as the internal pressure fought for release. His lungs began to collapse, but his mind raced. Here he was, on the moon! All in an instant he glimpsed it because he knew that he would be dead in another second. Exploded like a balloon. He visualized the thing best known to him, his study. Lizzie had been going out the door when she heard the chair creak. She forgot about the necessity for aspirin as she faced about. Mudge was in again.
Doctor, if you don't stop that, I don't know what will happen to me. Here a minute, gone again, here and gone, here and gone. What is the world coming to? It is not my eyes. It can't be my eyes. I felt over the whole room for you, and not so much as a hair of your head was here. What kind of heathen magic have you been stirring up? You've sold your soul to the...
Stop!
He had been close. Oh, but then that had not been as close as that other thing, which he dared not envision. He chopped the thought off and started back on another.
Maybe there isn't. Oh, I've got the test right here. Can I throw myself back and forth between life and death?
He had said the word,
Death!
and still nothing occurred. Oh, he breathed easier. He could not go back and forth through time, as he had no disconnection with the time stream. He could whisk himself about the universe at will, or against his will, but...
No!
Whatever are you up to? You frighten a body out of her wits!
Something awful is going on.
Yes.
I tried to tell you before dinner, but you wouldn't listen. I can imagine I am someplace and then be in that someplace. Very instant I could imagine something and zip, I'd be someplace else without walking through doors or anything.
Lizzie almost broke forth anew, but it awed her a little. Mudge looked tired.
But I'm afraid, Lizzie, I'm terribly afraid. If I don't watch myself, I might imagine I was in some horrible place, such as no. I might imagine I was someplace where no.
Those shots were like bullets to Lizzie Doolin, but she was still awed a little.
And I'm in trouble. The dean will not believe what is happening to me. He calls me a cheat. No!
What do you keep yelling for?
So I won't go sailing off. If I can catch a thought before it forms, I can stay put. But I'm not believed. They think me a cheat. Oh, Lizzie, I'll lose my professorship. We'll starve.
Never you mind what they say about you. I'll beat their heads in, Henry. That I will.
She had never shown any feeling for him in all those 10 years. She had bullied him and driven him and terrified him. She was conscious of her tenderness and brushed it away on the instant.
But don't go jumping off like that again. Drive over to that university in your car like a decent man should.
Yes, Lizzie.
He got up and walked toward the door. Her jaw was set again.
Mind what I tell you. Your car now, and nothing fancy.
Yes, Lizzie. They're waiting.
He couldn't stop that thought.
Have you no respect? How dare you do such things when I am talking to you? I was saying that the next time you'll probably...
Shut up!
Mudge was a very mild little fellow with never anything but groveling respect for everything and everybody. And these words from him?
I'm sorry. You mustn't say things, or you'll send me off somewhere again. Now, don't speak.
Mudge, you can be assured this performance this evening will terminate...
Don't! You might say something.
The audience was delighted, and laughter rolled through the hall. Mudge had not realized how his remark would sound. The dean had never been anything but overbearing, and now with his dignity scorned, he turned white. He stepped stiffly to the president of the university and said a few words in a low voice.
Here and now, I'm requesting your resignation, Mudge. This buffoonery...
Wait! First, look at these, and maybe you will see.
I care to look at nothing. You are a disgrace.
Look, just give me 1 minute. I am beside myself. I don't mean what I say, but there is one thing I must not think about. One thing I can't think about, but which I... Look here, see?
The dean scowled at the sheets of scribbled figures and symbols. Mudge talked to him in a low voice, growing more and more excited.
And there, right there, is equation C. Read it.
The dean thought Mudge might as well be humored as long as he would be leaving in the morning for good. His glance fastened on equation C.
That's very strange. My head feels...
Oh, what have I done?
Oh, I suppose he'll go to Mars now.
Mudge was almost in control by now. He knew that a part of Equation C was missing, which would make it completely workable and usable at all times without any danger, unless one happened to think.
No!
It was easy. All he had to do was visualize the classroom. The hall before him was silent as death, and men were staring in disbelief at the little man on the platform. He took up a pencil and bent eagerly over his notes. He had to work this thing out before he imagined.
No!
It would be awful if he dreamed it. Dreaming, he would have no real control, and things would happen to him.
Where'd he go?
Mudge glanced around.
Do you mean that statement about?
Shut up. The dean may find out how to get back unless he thinks of something he...
Dr. Mudge. I mean, he's in such a tone.
I am sorry, but you might have said it, and the next time... No!
Again, people jumped. Feverishly, he began to evolve Equation D. He almost knew why he was working so fast. He was wholly oblivious of the audience. Very well, he knew that his life depended upon solving Equation D, and thus putting the negative dimension wholly in his control. Oh, his pencil flew. There was a grunt at his elbow. And there stood the dean. He had sand in his gray hair, and he looked mussed up.
So you got back.
It was terrible.
Don't say it.
Doctor, I apologize for all I said to you.
He faced the crowd.
I can verify amply everything that has happened here tonight. Dr. Mudge is absolutely correct.
He paused to swab his face and spit sand out of his teeth.
About the negative dimension. I have the uneasy feeling, however, that it is a very dangerous dimension. A man might...
Stop!
He was working at a terrific pace now, was Henry. He knew he was working against death, knew it with all his heart. If at any minute he might find out where he was, that he was never dared to go. Equation D was suddenly before him.
Read that before you get any ideas. Mars.
The dean began to breathe more easily.
Moon. Gentlemen, I regret the excitement here tonight. It has quite exhausted me. I can either give you Equation C and D, or...
No! I'm frightened of it. I could never prevail upon myself to use it under any circumstances, and less than a falling building. Destroy it.
Everybody nodded.
I know this, but I will never write it again.
And so saying, he tore it up into little bits, never again to be read by any mortal man.
Gentlemen, I am chilly, and so if you will excuse me, I will envision my study.
Lizzie was crying. Her big shoulders shook as she hunched over in the doctor's chair.
Oh, I just know something will happen to him. Something awful. Poor little man.
I am not a poor little man.
What? Henry Mudge? What do you mean by...
I don't mean anything by it, Lizzie. Now be quick and get me a drink of something.
You know you don't drink.
I don't drink because I knew you didn't like it. Bring me some of that medicinal whiskey, Lizzie. Tomorrow I'll make it a point to get some good scotch.
Henry!
Don't talk like that. I am warning you that you had better be pretty good from now on.
Henry.
Stop that. I won't have it. I refuse to be bullied in my own home. I tell you, and unless you are very, very good, I am liable to vanish like that.
Don't do that, Henry. Please don't do that. Anything you say, Henry. Anything. But don't pop off like that anymore.
Henry beamed upon her.
That's better. Now, please go get me some clothes and a drink. And be quick about it.
Yes, Henry.
But even so, she did not feel badly about it. In fact, she felt very good. She whisked herself upstairs and trotted down again in a moment. She placed the whiskey and water beside his hand. Henry dug up a forbidden cigar. She did not protest.
Get me a light.
She got him a light.
If you want anything, dear, just call.
That I will, Lizzie.
He put his feet upon the desk, feeling wicked about it, but enjoying it just the same. He sank back, puffing his cigar, and then he took a sip of the drink. He chuckled to himself. The thought which had almost hit him before it came to him now. It jarred him for an instant, even it made him sweat, but he shook it off and was very brave.
The sun!